Hi, everyone. We're back. We're doing our Sunday thing where we're talking on the swing, except we had to move inside tonight. And we tried. Jonna can tell you. We really, really tried last week. Sorry, it was a total failure. We were so fortunate to be in a remote spot with a tiny little bit of Wi-Fi that wasn't enough. So now we're back. And we also skipped last week for the live show on the Tuesday because I took my kids to Arkansas. We were in the Beaver Dam Lake and in the forest and watching the sunset and watching the sunrise and doing fireworks. I've never even purchased fireworks as an adult before this week. Isn't that crazy? But we started to figure it out. We had sparklers and Roman candles and smoke bombs. They all chose their own smoke bombs, and we had a night where we went out to just lie in the street and look up at the stars because we were in this dead-end remote town of Beaver, Arkansas, where the bridge was flooded and nobody was there, and we could just be out in the middle of the street. It's the one spot where the trees were clear and we could see all the stars, and we were there long enough for it to sink in, and the Milky Way started to show up and more stars started to show up, and we adjusted our eyes. It was incredible. It's like total sanity to get away, stay still separated and safe. My children only peed twice on the way up and once on the way down. And everybody wore their masks and had all the protocol. And it's just, trying to make it still feel like summer and childhood and not just screens all the time.
So one of the
guys.
things...
We're here. We're doing our Sunday thing. I'm just talking. I don't even know how to talk. I wish there was...
So one of the things we've been wanting to do with this little chat with Sarah, swing with Sarah, obviously not on the swing
now
today.
It's sit with Sarah today.
Sit with Sarah today inside, is you've been talking about each of your band members. And so you told a story a couple weeks ago about Mitch and then Masumi. So I guess it's Chris's turn.
I feel like I already talked about Chris. I can't believe I haven't yet. Okay, so Chris Wade has been playing with us on Tuesdays. I feel like Chris was kind of a baby when I met him. I think he's maybe 10 years younger than me. I don't even know. But I was playing with Slim and Francie and Masumi, and it was the Jitterbug Viper time. And he would sometimes fill in on bass, like if Francie couldn't play, because she broke a few bones. There were times when she broke a wrist, she fell down at Old Settlers, and sometimes we needed a different bass player, and he was our guy. And he came up through that tradition of Kerrville Folk Festival, the entire generation, many younger generations of people who were part of this thing Slim had cultivated, which is like real jazz musicians, but also that picking around the campfire, picking at Kerrville, and growing up where you can, places like Kerrville where you can let your kid just run and not see them for a really long time and know that they're safe and they're part of the tribe and the community. And Chris was the real deal with all that. And when I said, hey, it'd be really funny if we wrote a bunch of original Viper songs for this band and we should make a record, I started asking people to write with me. And Chris and I were headed out where we were playing at the Nutty Brown, and he sang me this idea that I put in my phone, and he was like, when you're high, and he has a sweet voice, but it's not always totally accurate back then. There ain't no problem. Like, and I didn't know exactly what he was wanting, but I caught that idea. And we got together and wrote the song When You're High, which to me is just classic. Like, we can do it anytime and people think it's a actual jazz standard. This is, I was going to guess 2013 we wrote those songs. We wrote Phoebe's Dream, A Viper Just the Same, and When You're High for that Jitterbug Vipers record. And then afterwards we kept writing. There are 2 other songs we wrote with Slim after that record. One's called Let's Make Up, which did make it onto an EP, and one we've never recorded or released, called Rent Party, which is based on legal pad pages and pages and pages and pages of notes from Slim about this song he wanted that would be called Rent Party, based on the concept of back in the day people would get together and have a big fat jam session and have like some moonshine charge at the door. It would be a huge party, and the next thing you know, they could pay their rent. Which I feel like if we could somehow do via live stream right now, we should just call every live stream Rent Party. I wish we had recorded that song. And then Chris and I wrote songs for some EPs I put out last year, and then we've been really busy in the last year, less than a year, co-writing. And I think we're making a record. And we have a lot of songs that are finished and several that are worth finishing. And I think we're going to do it with a male voice. And so it would be not a Sarah Sharp record. It would be where I'm the lead on some and the male's the lead on some, and then we wrote a duet. We have somebody in mind who might be our male singer for this project. Some of the songs we've been playing lately are from that, like the Pizza Boxes song. We keep doing it every week because we can't help it because we love it so much. I'm saying a lot tonight. Chris and I are kind of like spiritual warriors together. There's a lot that we're journeying through in the growth of our souls, and we sit and we listen and we reflect and we share and we try together to help each other get there. And when we write, it's so unconditional, and it's coming from such a place of complete mutual respect, and it flows. Sometimes I've sat with someone to try to write, and they're so in their head that the moment a spark of an idea happens, they want to overthink it, start laying down tracks. Like, they want to think about the finished project, and the moment that it's actually like the portal opens and ideas are flowing in and wanting to be born gets squashed. And when Chris and I are together and ideas are flowing, it's just like this open, nobody gets in the way. And go ahead.
I was just going to say that's a really special thing that you can have that.
We wrote a new song that I almost have finished the lyrics on like 2 weeks ago, and the text from him was, I have this thing and it's gonna need to be born like today. Are you available? Can I come over? And we sat outside in the front yard. We're still like keeping our social distance, and it was because he was feeling all stirred up about something. And it's great if one of us is out in the world getting all stirred up, we can bring it to each other and go from there.
What's something that you can tell us about? I know right now you've had a lot of live stream shows and online shows. It's quite different than last year at this time, probably. So, for example, you had sound check and you had certain processes that
load in and all
right,
the
and all those things aren't really happening so much right now, except maybe in your front yard. How is that different for you now?
Well, it makes me think of the elephant room. Whenever I would get to the elephant room on a Tuesday, and before we had the residency, it was just any time I was getting there. Often when my kids were little, it was by the hair of my chinny chin chin, and we would have. It's so funny to think of how much we had to adapt week after week to what it took to get to the gig on time, park, pay to park. Like the way that Austin has changed and changed and changed and changed, and I got to right before the pandemic started. If I left right at 5 from my house that is 1.3 miles from the elephant room, I could get there in time to park, sound check everything, and start at 6. If I left at 4:45, it was way, 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 way better. But that's like getting the kids home from school. They have after school activities. I would like throw my older kids out at the house, like not even. If I were to leave at 5:15, I would almost not get a parking spot. Like almost not even get to get something to drink before I sang my first notes. And that like fight to get there somehow was, but we'd all show up and we'd be like, it's like when you slide into home base and you're like, yeah, like right. I'm here, I'm ready, and everybody's happy to be there. It was never like, oh, I gotta do my gig. Like Tuesday for us was our touchstone, and then we would just tell each other everything. If somebody's dog was sick or somebody's mom or somebody, we've seen each week, some, if Pat's, partner was having a baby, all the things. We have all this, we get there, we're trying to make it sound good, we're trying to pull it off, and we're telling each other the most important things right before we start. And go ahead.
So how has that changed with excuse me, with regard to now it's in your front yard and people are coming over, and then, if there's face masks and there's social distancing, how has the sound check process changed, other than obviously there's no traffic for you now because it's here at home, but all the other things, the getting there, and it's, everybody's sliding into home base. Does it still feel like that, or is it completely different?
It's totally different.
And how is it different?
I think there's something, it's like you and I, Jonna, talked when we were in Arkansas about the plants that have to struggle and how they're like juicier and more amazing, Mm-hmm. That struggle of the day in and the day out, and the part that is amazing is where you actually get to play the music. It's still the most amazing thing. We're out in the yard, but it's not. It's against different elements. I don't want to say that it's not against the elements, but it's against different elements, and we're not. I mean, Masumi shows up and you can hear her coming down the stairs all the way through. Baby, hi! Like, ah! It's like all the love and the affection. And I mean, I've talked in the past about like, man, if I was as a band leader, if I was an actual CEO of a company, some of the things that are the culture of our band would be such the Me Too movement. Like I'm not sure if I should admit it, but the way that we're like naughty innuendo and touch and hugs and it's a different, we exist in a different
And so all of this has definitely affected that.
Well, we're all carrying. We show up and it's a different survival mode. I mean, every musician who's not famous and extremely successful is in musician mode, in survival mode all the time. But it's a different survival mode. It's an inability to think of what's next. We're not at the gig talking about, hey, on Friday when we play the such and so party and we, what time do we need to set? We're not talking about the logistics of all the other things we're doing together. And we're not talking about, oh, hi guys, I'm so happy to be here. Like one of my favorite things about Tuesdays was I could admit my worst mom moments. Be like, y'all want to hear about how I was a bad mom yesterday? Like, and I felt like as long as I admitted it, I was keeping it real. And
So you don't admit bad mom moments in your yard?
Oh, I don't have any anymore.
No more.
No, but it's true. Like, I actually don't have, I mean, when you're like, clean your plate, finish your pancakes, put the milk away, put your shoes on because it's 7:05 and we got to leave in 5 minutes. Like, what? Like, all the more, like, the things, the get to school and the everything. Like, there's just there's not nearly as much those are other elements we battle. And I think the struggle adds to the beauty when you finally get to just make the music.
Right.
So I have a question here.
Okay.
Tell us about like your most memorable experience on performing like a gig. For example, I know you've traveled all over. You've done performances all over the U.S. In fact, you've traveled and performed in Europe. Is there any particular performance or show that is the most memorable for you?
While you were asking that question, I had a few things pop up for me. One was like Paramount Theater, Black Fret, Slim. One was house concerts. I think I'll talk about house concerts. Maybe when the world starts to open up, it'll be these smaller gatherings or maybe like outdoor house concerts. I don't know, but it's all... I'm not thinking of a specific gig. I'm thinking of the energetic feeling of everybody connected and dialed in, where it's in the air, where you could hear a pin drop, where all of our intentions are being received at face value. And there's just such presence. That's the presence of... I just think of key moments where everybody was dialed in. I'm not the kind of singer who, could bitch slap you and win American Idol. Like with my voice, get out there and
What are some of the moments that make you think of those moments? Like if you were doing a gig and you're talking about those moments, tell us about that. I mean, what draws you to that conclusion?
I think there are times when everyone can hear each other and people who are listening can hear the way we were meant to. And really that probably has to do with back to the way it would have sounded if you were sitting around a campfire or something. For me, without a big fat voice, without a gospel voice, without, one that can just project far away and fill the room, it's a presence. But I don't know. I mean, I've also had totally like lose yourself, wild, bigger, louder moments.
What about concerts you've been to, where you have felt as if you're part of that as a spectator instead of a
I don't know
performer?
why, but the thing that just came to my mind was listening to John Fulbright at the Paramount Theater in 2015. And it wasn't sold out at all. Like, it was really kind of like, wow, he's not filling this place. But, oh my God, he played, I knew his recordings, and I was so inspired by him as a writer, and it was all more like a guitar stuff, and he was mostly on piano, and he was like Randy Newman that night. Mm-hmm. Actually, can I tell you another?
You can.
How much time do we have? In 2015, maybe, I don't know, everything's a blur. I somehow randomly, because I sometimes had donated to Habitat for Humanity, I got a notice about something in New Orleans for Habitat for Humanity, and it was a house concert that Randy Newman played. And it was $500 for 2 tickets, but it was in someone's living room. And I didn't exactly have $500, but it was Randy Newman playing in somebody's living room in New Orleans. And I just bought the tickets and got there and brought a friend. And everyone there was like, the moment I entered this, palatial, historic, amazing home with this salon of a living room, I just went straight to, literally, there's the piano. That I was there, like where the temperature thing is on the wall. That's where I stood. I got my spot right there, and Randy Newman played right there, and he played for a long time, and he played Louisiana. He played I Think It's Gonna Rain. I mean, this was all raising funds continuing to build and help New Orleans.
After Katrina.
Yeah, it's the intimacy. Yeah, and I talked to him, and I gave him a Jitterbug Vipers record, and he thought it was an incredible concept to write those niche songs, and
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning, you were talking about Chris and all these memorable performances and moments.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys travel together whenever you go and perform places, or did you guys mostly just play in town together in more recent times?
It's funny. I can't even remember what touring is like. I'm like, what will that look like? I'm not sure that Chris and I have really ever toured together, because he wasn't always the main bass player for Jitterbug Vipers, and he wasn't always the main bass player for my shows at the Elephant Room. We just write a lot, and during this time, it's been super great to have him on bass, because Pat, who was always our bass player, Pat Harris at Elephant Room, he's got 2 babies. His wife's on the front line, like in her day job. They are isolated. He is not playing. But I think that when Chris and I make this record, it's ready. Like, all we need is, the songs are written. We have to, I don't know.
I can't wait.
I know, we gotta make it. Who can even think, who can think about the money for it? I don't know, we just gotta take
It's
it one
art.
day at a time. But surely we're gonna tour with it.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
So, Tuesday?
Tuesday, y'all. Hey, Masumi's not gonna come on Tuesday. She just texted me. I understand. We gotta figure it out. Like, it's Texas.
Changing day to day.
Texas is surging.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We want to be safe.
So we're gonna have to check in with Mitch and Chris, see about the weather, see about whether and how to keep it going. I want to. It's like we have our inner circle and we know that everybody's being safe, so we kind of want to keep doing what we're doing, but I don't know. We got to figure it out, right?
To be continued.
Thank you, guys.